About 5 years or so after I'd retired, my daughter Karen, who lived in Elko, Nevada, noted that they had a big poetry gathering there in about 1985, and she wondered if maybe I ought to see if I could get into the next one. And so by some hook or crook I did. So I went down to Elko, and the first thing I noticed was that I was seriously underdressed. I call this poem, which I wrote many years later, Old Cowboy. I had drifted into Elko back in 1986, where a heap of cowboy poets was a-getting in their licks, and I surely plumb enjoyed it, met some folks I'd never knowed, and I said a poem or two myself and headed down the road. Well, I wasn't feeling easy about the poems I had read, not to mention that old straw hat that was perched atop my head. So I headed for the stockman's and I bought myself a drink, and I'm thinking, why did I do this? My chain has snapped a link. Now, a lot of fellows I had seen throughout the afternoon was all dressed to kill and polished like a high-class bar's spittoon. So I'm sitting here in this old bar to try to work it out, and I'm thinking, no, the costumes ain't what this is all about, though I still was somewhat envious of trappings that I'd seen, and the manicured mustache worn by a cowboy lank and lean with a silver buckle in his belt. I had the random thought that his hat cost more than all the clothes that I'd ever bought. But still I'd heard some verses that was true as they could be, and there's some that came from cowboys that was older than a tree. So I'm sitting there a-pondering the things that come and go, and I'm somehow wishing I'd been born 100 years ago, when a feller sits beside me and he eased his carcass down, and I says, "You here for poetry?" "Nope, just got into town." Now his skin was made of leather. I could see he'd run his race, 'cause he's busted down old bodies even older than his face. With a drink or two within me, I admired of his old hat. It had been a Stetson one time, I was pretty sure of that. It set straight across his eyebrows that was white but bushy still, and it rested like a black cloud sitting on a granite hill. Then a feller sat across from us, a peacock sort of man. With a wild array of colors, he's a real dandy Dan. And the feller there beside me says, "What kind of guy is that? I can tell he ain't no cowboy by the way he wears his hat. Hell, it's crimped and tilted sideways. Ain't no way to wear that thing. That guy can't be no cowboy, just some dad-burned ding-a-ling." And my buddy starts to mutter, and he's painin', and it showed, and he said to me, "Young feller, do you mind if I unload?" And I says to him, "The drink's on me. What brought you into town?" And he says to me, "I've had a wreck, and I'm just plain busted down. I was born up in Montana, and I started drifting south, and I worked my way through Idaho in rain and snow and drought. I've never wanted nothing but to ride behind some cows, but there's always fences being built and farmers with their plows. So I come down to Nevada just to find a little space, but the times has caught and passed me, and I think I've lost the race. There were times I'd take my bedroll and I'd lie there in the sands, and the stars was big as walnuts. You could reach 'em with your hands. But the Milky Way has disappeared. My way of life's been killed. And there sits that silly bozo with his hat on at a tilt." Well, I never knew that old hand's name. I maybe never will, but I hope we'll meet in heaven where the stars are closer still. He'll be up there herding cattle down the draws and across the flat. We won't need no introduction, 'cause I'll know him by his hat.